The last real conversation I had with my daughter ended with her smiling, the kind of smile that hides a wound behind it. "You're sweet, Papa," she said, adjusting her pearl necklace as guests arrived at her backyard brunch. "But maybe don't say too much today. Some of James's colleagues are coming, and they might struggle with your accent." It didn't hurt at first. Not immediately. I just nodded and stepped back, out of view, like I'd done 1,000 times before. She didn't know that I had overheard her a week earlier, laughing with her husband. "He means well," she had said, "but the accent, it's just so thick. People always ask if we're from, like, the Bronx or something. We are not from the Bronx. We are from Guayaquil, Ecuador. And I have worked half my life in this country to make sure she never had to be ashamed of where we came from." That night, I left early. I told her I had work in the morning. She didn't ask what kind of work. She's never asked. I went home to my small 2-bedroom apartment over the bakery I clean at night. I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by peeling laminate and the quiet hum of the fridge, and pulled out the folder I'd kept since the day she signed the papers. Her mortgage. 3 pages. My name, Luis Vargas, listed under, co-signer and primary responsible party. Their dream home. Their white picket fence in Maplewood. That was me. My savings. My credit score. My income. I paid the down payment. I've paid every mortgage bill for 5 years. They were supposed to take over after the first year. "Just until James's job settles," she'd said. I never pushed. I never asked. I just kept paying. $2,743 a month. Every month. Without a thank you. Without a birthday card. Without a seat at her table. And now, I was an embarrassment. A man too foreign for their polished life. So I opened a drawer and pulled out a pen. Wrote a simple note. "To whom it may concern, effective immediately, I will no longer be making mortgage payments on the property at 71 Larkspur Drive. All future responsibility belongs to the homeowners." I sealed it, addressed it to the bank, and slid it into my outgoing mail tray. That was the beginning. The rest? The rest unfolded like a quiet avalanche. I was born in a concrete house with a tin roof that clattered like 1,000 spoons every time the rain came. Guayaquil was heat and chaos and mango trees. My father worked the docks, and my mother sold empanadas from a cart. We had little, but I didn't know that until I left. In 1991, I came to the U.S. with a suitcase that held 2 shirts, one framed photo of Marta, and the dream of a better life. My English was rough. I practiced in secret by reading soup labels out loud at the supermarket. "Cream of mushroom," I'd whisper, over and over, until I could say it without stumbling. I worked as a dishwasher at first. Then construction. I learned to tile, to lay concrete, to listen more than I spoke. The accent never faded, but the work got steadier. My hands calloused and my spine grew tired, but I kept showing up. Marta joined me 2 years later, after I'd saved enough. She was everything, soft-spoken, strong-willed, a better listener than I'd ever deserve. We married in a church basement with plastic chairs and stale cake, and I've never known a happier day. We had Elena in 1995, and Mateo in 1998. We raised them in a rented duplex in Jersey City. I'd leave for work at 5 a.m., return after dark, dusted in cement and smelling of paint. Marta would keep dinner warm, and the kids would jump into my lap like I'd been gone for a year. We didn't have vacations. We didn't have name brands. But they had school clothes, clean shoes, and every single field trip paid for. Marta passed in 2010. Ovarian cancer. Quiet, fast, brutal. I didn't know how to grieve with children in the house, so I didn't. I just worked. I saved every penny. When Elena got into Rutgers, I told her, "Don't worry about the loans." And she didn't. For years. Tuition. Room and board. Books. I tiled half of Essex County to make it happen. When Matteo started a landscaping business at 22, I gave him $18,000, the last of our emergency fund, to buy a truck and equipment. When Elena married James, they looked so proud in the wedding photos, standing in front of a venue I helped pay for. It was the first time I'd worn a suit since Marta's funeral. "Someday we'll buy a house, Papa," she said. "A real one. With space for you to visit. Maybe even a guest room just for you." 2 years later, she called in tears. "Papa, we found it. But our credit is a little shaky, would you?" Of course I would. I didn't ask for conditions. I didn't ask to be repaid. I just showed up at the bank, signed where they told me, and started paying. Month after month. Never late. Elena and James said they'd take over after a year. Then James switched jobs. Then they were trying for a baby. Then daycare was expensive. Then 5 years passed. Every time they came over, they talked about house upgrades, promotions, new friends, wine clubs. I listened. I smiled. At Elena's baby shower, James's mother introduced me as the lovely grandfather, from Ecuador, right? I smiled. "Yes, ma'am." "That's so nice," she said, already turning away. "Such a rich culture." That's how they saw me. Flavor. Not foundation. Not the man who bought the very walls around them. So I stopped waiting for gratitude. And started preparing for the storm. The moment of clarity came at a birthday brunch. Elena's little girl had just turned 3, bright eyes, curls like her mother's, and the same stubborn streak I remembered from Elena at that age. They invited everyone. James's colleagues, neighbors, other parents from daycare. I arrived early with a hand-carved wooden rocking horse I'd been working on for months in my garage. I sanded it smooth, painted it lavender, her favorite color, and tied a big silver bow around the neck. Elena barely looked at it. "Oh, Papa. That's sweet. But she's really into iPads now." James's parents got her a Kindle for kids. I placed it in the corner, behind a pile of unopened boxes. Later, when guests arrived, I stood in the kitchen, offering to help with drinks. Elena touched my arm gently, leading me aside. "Papa," she whispered, "maybe let James do the talking today. You have such a strong presence. It can be a lot for people." "A lot?" I asked, trying to smile. "You know, the accent. Some people can't always follow. It makes you seem a bit traditional." Traditional. A word that can mean wise, or backward. I nodded. Of course. I stood near the window while James gave a toast. "We're so lucky," he said, raising a glass. "This home, this community, our beautiful daughter, we built all this together." Elena beamed. People clapped. No one looked at me. No one remembered who made the first payment, or the 100 after. After dessert, I offered to help clean up. Elena handed me a small trash bag. "You can just help outside, Papa. Maybe gather the paper plates." The tone was polite. Gentle. Careful. But clear. I was being repositioned. From guest, to help. The last straw came as I was about to leave. A woman I hadn't met, finely dressed and perfumed, whispered to Elena, not realizing I stood just around the corner. "Your father. He's charming." But I couldn't understand half of what he said. Elena laughed lightly. "It's okay. He doesn't really get these kinds of events." That night, I drove home and sat in the driveway for 15 minutes before going inside. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I just sat. listening to the tick of the engine cooling in the quiet. Inside, the apartment felt smaller than usual. The rocking horse sat on my workbench. I'd planned to build a matching one for Mateo's future kids. Now, I wasn't sure I ever would. I opened the drawer again. The folder sat where I always kept it, beneath Marta's prayer book. Mortgage documents. Monthly bank statements. Proof. I flipped to the current balance. $292,000 remaining. I thought about the number. Then about the laughter in Elena's voice. The hollow clink of wine glasses. The rocking horse, untouched. And for the first time in years, I let a different kind of silence settle over me. A silence not of grief, but of decision. For weeks after the party, I stopped answering their calls. There weren't many. Just a text from Elena, "Hope you got home okay. Thanks again for coming." Then silence. I started eating alone again. Soup from a can. Bread from the day-old's bin. My appetite dulled like a knife left out in the rain. I'd wake up at 5, not because of work, but because my body still hadn't learned Marta was gone. The apartment, once noisy with family, had become still as a mausoleum. Marta's old slippers still sat by the bed. I couldn't bring myself to move them. Sometimes I'd walk down to the lake near Journal Square, just to hear people speak Spanish. Real Spanish. Not polished Spanglish, not code-switched performances, just old women complaining about the price of onions, boys yelling over soccer, toddlers crying for pilates. It reminded me I wasn't alone in my shape, my tongue, my tone. But coming home always felt like falling off a cliff. I watched the mortgage drain my account, month after month. I was still working part-time with a contractor, but the jobs were fewer now. The knees didn't hold like they used to. $2,743. Every month. For a house I wasn't welcome in. I skipped my own birthday. Mateo called. I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't stand to hear his voice, half my son, half guilt. I stopped going to church. Couldn't bear the hollow sermons about forgiveness. I knew if I saw another proud father hugging his daughter after Mass, I'd break. One night, while sorting through the kitchen drawer, I found an old letter from Elena. It was from her freshman year at Rutgers. "Dear Papa," it began, in shaky cursive. "I miss you so much. Thank you for helping me follow my dreams. Someday, I'll make you proud." I folded it back and pressed it against my chest. I whispered Marta's name like a prayer. Had we failed? Had we loved too much? Had we made it too easy? The rocking horse still sat in the corner. I covered it with an old sheet. Out of sight. Out of heart. That night, I dreamt I was back in Guayaquil, standing by the river, holding a mortgage bill that turned to sand in my hands. When I woke, the room was dark, but I could still feel the grit between my fingers. It was time to let go. Not of love. Not of duty. But of illusion. It started with a letter I didn't send. I wrote it late one night, the kitchen clock ticking louder than usual. The kind of ticking that makes you feel like time is a person watching you, waiting to see what you'll do. The letter was short. To whom it may concern. Effective immediately, I, Luis Vargas, will no longer be making payments toward the mortgage at 71, Larkspur Drive. I am not the homeowner. I am not a resident. I am merely the man who made it possible. I trust the bank will take appropriate steps from here. Sincerely. Luis Vargas. I folded it and slid it into an envelope. No stamp. No return address. Just a decision, sitting quietly on my table. I left it there for 3 days. Every time I walked by, I looked at it like a sleeping dog. Harmless until you wake it. On the 4th day, I mailed it. I didn't call Elena. I didn't text Mateo. I didn't warn anyone. I just stopped. The money stayed in my account the next month. For the first time in years, my balance didn't dip below the danger line. I paid off my dental bill. I bought real groceries, fruit, fresh vegetables, coffee that didn't taste like cardboard. I even took the subway to the Bronx and walked the botanical garden, something Marta had wanted to do with me years ago. It was still spring. Everything was still green. At the community center that week, they started a new volunteer ESL program. I signed up. They needed Spanish-speaking adults to help with pronunciation and confidence. "Your accent is beautiful," a student told me after class. "It sounds like family." I almost cried. Not long after, I got a call from the bank, a polite inquiry about the missing payment. I confirmed my identity, explained I was no longer contributing, and that the homeowners should be contacted for future discussions. They paused. "You're still listed as the co-signer, Mr. Vargas." "Yes," I said. "But I'm not their father anymore." Click. The silence afterward was perfect. 3 weeks later, James called. Voicemail. Stammering. Confused. I listened once. Then deleted it. Elena didn't call at all. Not then. I kept working. Kept helping at the center. Started sleeping through the night again. Some nights, I even lit a candle next to Marta's photo and talked to her like she was still there. "I did it, mi amor," I whispered once. I let go. By summer, the letters started arriving at their door. Notice of missed payment. Delinquent. Urgent, account in arrears. I knew, because the bank copied me on everything. I opened each envelope slowly, neatly, the way Marta used to open birthday cards. There was something sacred in seeing truth spelled out in corporate fonts and legal ink. I didn't gloat. I just made tea, sat at my small table, and read each letter like a man catching up on news he already expected. James called again. This time, he sounded less confused and more nervous. "Luis, hey. It's James. I think something's off with the loan, maybe the autopay didn't go through or. Listen, let's just connect, okay? We can figure it out." He ended the message with a chuckle that was more habit than humor. I didn't respond. The next week, I saw Elena's number light up my phone screen. I let it ring. A text came minutes later. "Papa. Did something happen with the bank? We've been getting notices. Can we talk?" I turned off my phone and left it off for 2 days. The silence, it turns out, spoke better English than I ever could. I wasn't being cruel. I wasn't punishing. I was just returning the favor. All those family parties I wasn't invited to. All those holidays spent alone. All the conversations where I'd been shushed, redirected, or corrected. All I'd done was take myself out of the equation. The math, it turns out, never worked without me. A month later, their home was in pre-foreclosure. They tried to refinance. But Elena's name alone didn't carry the weight. James's credit wasn't strong enough. They were offered an adjusted rate, nearly double their current payment. I imagine the panic, the whispered arguments behind closed doors. A house that once felt like security now felt like an anchor. I saw Elena's Instagram change. Photos of dinners out gave way to home-cooked meals. Vacations disappeared. So did the friends. Eventually, she posted a photo of a moving box. "New chapter," the caption read. No one asked where they were going. I already knew. The house went on the market 2 weeks later. Below value. Quick sale. Bare bones listing. No mention of the updated kitchen or the custom tile in the entryway, the one I laid myself, piece by piece, while James watched football. I thought I might feel something, a rush, a spike of justice. But I didn't. It was more like the air after a thunderstorm, clean, hushed, still. They moved into a rental apartment in Newark. 2 bedrooms. No yard. No guest room. No room for pride. I never said a word. They never asked. 3 months after the sale, I received a thick envelope with no return address. Inside was a check for $250. No note. Just the check. The memo line read, "For July." I smiled, folded it in half, and slid it into a drawer. I didn't cash it. A week later, another one arrived. $300 this time. A little note this time, scribbled in Elena's handwriting. "We're trying to make things right." She didn't sign it with love. She didn't call me Papa. That was okay. That door wasn't closed, but it was no longer automatic. At the ESL Center, I got promoted to lead volunteer. I helped a man from Honduras practice his job interview answers. Helped a woman from Peru write her first English resume. Every one of them told me the same thing in different words. "Your accent sounds like safety." Elena called once. I didn't pick up. Her voicemail was quiet. No panic. No shame. "Hi Papa. Just wanted to let you know we're doing okay. James got a new job, nothing flashy, but it's steady. Lily started preschool. I'm sorry we didn't see what you were doing. I'm sorry we didn't appreciate you when it mattered." A long pause. "I miss your voice." Click. I listened to it twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger. But because I wanted to keep only the memories I chose. Mateo came by the next weekend, unannounced. He brought empanadas and a new pair of work gloves. "I've been a ghost, huh?" he said, scratching his neck. Elena told me what happened. I didn't know. I poured him coffee. We didn't talk about blame. We just sat. Eventually he said, "She's different now. Quieter. Softer." "Sometimes," I said, "losing something is the only way to understand its value." He nodded. "She still tells Lily stories about you," he added. I didn't reply. We ate in silence, like men who had done too much explaining in their lives. Outside, the wind picked up. The kind that sweeps away old dust and forgotten leaves. I thought about the rocking horse, still covered in a sheet. I didn't uncover it. But I didn't throw it away either. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary, uneventful, until I opened the door and saw Elena standing on my stoop. She held a box in her hands. "Papa," she said. Her voice was quiet. Flat, but not cold. I stepped aside. She entered without waiting for an invitation, like she used to when she was 10, coming home from school to the smell of Marta's sopa de lentejas. She placed the box on the table. "I brought your books back," she said. "The ones you left in our garage. And some of Mom's things. I kept them for a while. I thought I would give them to Lily. But that didn't feel right." I nodded, still standing. She looked around my apartment like it was foreign to her. The walls painted a pale blue, the photos of our old life neatly arranged along a single shelf, Marta smiling, Elena in her graduation gown, Mateo in his first suit. "I didn't come to ask for anything," she said finally. "I just wanted to tell you." She paused. Tears didn't come. She had cried those out long ago, I imagined. "I was embarrassed," she said. "I was climbing so fast, trying to be something. Someone. And you reminded me of where I came from." My hands were folded in front of me. Still. Calm. I thought if I just worked hard enough, dressed the part, married the part, lived in the right zip code, I could erase the parts of me that didn't fit in cocktail parties and PTA meetings. She looked down. "And your voice, it was the loudest part of that past. It wasn't just the accent. It was what it reminded me of. Humble beginnings. Scraping by. Working hands. She finally met my eyes. I confused dignity with shame. And you paid the price for that. I pulled out a chair. She didn't sit. I want to start over, she said. I know I can't undo the years. I know I can't pay back every penny. But I want to try. Not just with money. She opened the box. Inside was Marta's rosary. Some of her old scarves. The ceramic owl that used to sit on our kitchen shelf. I want Lily to know where she comes from, she said. The real where. There was no speech in me. No lecture waiting on my tongue. I just walked to the window. The light was soft, as it always was in late October. You thought I was a man to be hidden, I said, without anger. I know, she whispered. But I was the foundation. And you built a home without realizing the concrete was still wet. She nodded, eyes shimmering. I didn't know I was sinking until it cracked beneath me. I turned. She stood like a girl again. Small, uncertain, waiting to be invited in. Papa, she said. I miss your voice. I looked at the chair. Then at her. Then back at the chair. She understood. Some doors open without words. Life didn't become perfect after that. But it became mine again. The mortgage statement stopped coming. The folders, once thick with reminders of obligation, now held nothing but old tax returns and memories I chose to keep. I began each morning with fresh coffee and silence. Not the silence of loneliness, but the kind that feels like rest. I repainted the apartment. Pale green in the kitchen. Marta always said green made a room feel like it had something to say. I started cooking again. Small meals. Spiced the way I like, not watered down for guests who might find cumin too strong. On Sundays, I walked to the farmer's market. The tomato lady always threw in one extra for free. Para el abuelo, she'd say with a wink. Sometimes I took the long way home, past the new playground. I'd see children running, laughing, falling, only to get up and try again. Resilient, like the people I come from. Mateo visited more often. Not out of guilt, but because he wanted to. We stopped talking about the past. We built bookshelves instead. Painted the porch. One afternoon, he brought Lily. She was taller than I remembered. Older. Wiser in that quiet way children become when their parents are distracted by worry. She looked at the rocking horse in the corner, still covered. Did you make that? She asked. I nodded. It's beautiful, she whispered. I uncovered it. She didn't climb on. She just ran her fingers along the wood. Mama says you used to build everything. I still do, I said. Can you show me? So I did. We spent the afternoon sanding a piece of scrap wood into the shape of a heart. She painted it blue. Marta's favorite color. When Elena picked her up, she stood at the doorway longer than necessary. Thank you, she said. I didn't answer. Just handed her the heart. Weeks later, a letter came. Handwritten. Papa, we're saving. I'm budgeting for the first time. No more takeout. We're learning. We're growing. Lily tells everyone her grandpa makes magic with wood. I think she's right. I folded the letter and placed it next to Marta's rosary. There were no loud celebrations. No grand reconciliations. Just slow, patient rebuilding. The way all strong things are made. They once said my accent embarrassed them. That my voice was too raw, too rough, a remnant of something they were trying to rise above. But I kept speaking. Not loudly. Not to prove a point. Just to exist. To remind them, and myself, that dignity doesn't always speak fluent English, and pride doesn't need permission to be heard. Now, when I read to the children at the community center, they listen closely. They hang on every syllable, every lilt, every quiet pause. To them, my voice sounds like safety. Like truth. Like home. And sometimes, on a slow morning, the phone rings and Lily shouts, "Abuelito. Tell me the story again, the one where you built a house with your hands." So I begin. In the same voice they once wanted to silence. The same voice that built everything they stand on. Because the beautiful thing about an echo, is that it always returns to the one who made it.